Hi, everybody. Greetings, greetings. Hope everybody is doing well this afternoon. Uh, yes, this afternoon for even our family on the West Coast. I'm glad to have everybody. My name is Chioma Nnaji, and I am program director at the Multicultural AIDS Coalition, which is located in Boston, Massachusetts. And we have the honor to be convener and member of United We Rise. For those of you who don't know about United We Rise started about 5 years ago as an effort to really start focusing on what it will it take for us to address HIV in Black communities. A group of folks, and I see some of our founding members on. Hey, Kamaria. Nice seeing you, Queen. So a group of folks came together and really wanted to pose the question, what would it look like if Black folks were leading the into the epidemic? And so for the past 5 years, we've been working on various projects and really collaborating with various organizations and other coalitions to not only answer this question, but put action to this question. And so we focus on five main areas: HIV policy, Black community engagement, Black leadership, intersectionality, and sexual and gender identity. So please go on our website, learn more about United We Rise. You have an opportunity to join a lot of the efforts that we're doing. You'll be hearing about a research project that United We Rise is leading to really start identifying what are the ways in which Black communities, Black organizations do and do not have access to the funding that is needed to do the work. So it's going to be an amazing project. You'll hear more about that. But connect with us on our social media and on our website. And of course, this couch conversation is led by our work group, our Change the Narrative work group. And so we've been running these couch conversations since January. And we're very excited to have an amazing, amazing group of folks to have our conversation today around navigating and resisting Black erasure and thinking about what does that mean and doing it through the arts, which we know the arts have had an amazing centering in our communities around our activism, around our leadership, and even around our faith and our healing. One of our United We Rise Planning Committee members, Christopher Hux Ortiz, will be leading that conversation with our amazing panelists. So before we jump in, we always like to ground ourselves. And well, of course, since we're talking about arts and activism, of course, we have to ground
Black
ourselves
blood be a
in
sopping.
something that is very much representative of the power of the arts. And so I'm going to share with you this poetry piece that was done as part of United We Rise inaugural um, convening that we did back in 2020. And so it's a four-person piece, but you'll just hear the first person. But you'll be able to go on our YouTube channel and hear all of the powerful pieces. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope this prepares you for the amazing conversation that we are going to have. Just give me a hand. You might not hear it yet. Tech. Give me a minute.
Blood be a sopping river. Be Mississippi hues flooding the veins. Be veins flaying the family willow. Got you looking like your daddy and his daddy Nim's people. And then who before that, black blood roll wide like waters. Be thicker than molasses, candied like sugar cane, sweet like Abel, be sinning like a saint do, for knowing what the sun know, for leaking how the night leaks, black blood drip dark and still gleam north like a star. be shipped in and weighed in the wake still. Black blood be Atlantic, Atlantis, and Atlas, constellation of maps, masking as braids. Black blood be locked in and twisted in, be Bantu knotted like fists, be jailed and knocked, be knockers and barrettes beating a high top fade behind the school's bleachers. Black blood be black child. Black blood be black child running through pipelines, inlines, Dixon lines, black blood lined with spirit. Black blood sprint like spirit over the Ohio Creek, black blood cross. Black blood be crossed over, be cross burned, black blood fire, black blood on fire, black blood forging a frown, mad at the other for being woman, scared at the other for being gay, for being trans, fat like a drum, too tar baby, and still not tar baby enough. Black blood be haunted, got a ghost gunning for re-election, be a bullet point on a ballot, be the bullet of the ballot. Black blood be the bullet's first love. Black blood run, black blood be the first to run the show, be the first to run dry. Black blood be the first to bury, black blood be the first to back. Black blood be mattering, be rippling an ocean wave, river, Nile. Black blood be spine bone unbit, be chiseled like Chisholm, oral like Arisha, dressed the color of lemonade, be scenting like sunset, be sundress on brown skin, be all right. Black blood be we gon' be all right. Black blood be black. Black blood be back. Black blood coming back. Black blood be we gon' get free.
I don't know about y'all, but that gets me every time. It does it for me every time. Not only in terms of who we are as Black people, but the ways in which we are just creative and use that creativity for Black liberation. So I hope that that grounded you and prepared you for our conversation today. So now I'm going to hand it over to Max Boykin. He's going to give our updates around what's happening nationally, some of the organizing and action that's happening, and maybe some of the policy shifts that we need to be aware of. Max, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so very much, Chioma. What's up, y'all? My name is Max Boykin. I am the manager of the Save HIV Funding Campaign, which is a national campaign working to save as much of the HIV funding while also understanding the intersectional issues that are impacting our communities are also very important, how in which we work in combination to uplift these issues and fight back again which has been truly a fascist regime, as we continue to see in DC with the inclusion. I know many of you folks will also be going to DC next week for USCHA, and also dealing with the real fear of federal police being used to just harass people in DC. That has happened this month. We do know that many of our congressional leaders have been in recess. So during this time, hasn't been a lot of major moves. We do know before they went on recess, before the end of July, that the Senate actually did approve many of their work in which they're in their Health and Human Services piece to make sure that there was actual HOPWA funding, which was a wonderful thing to see, and also to see back to level funding of a lot of HIV sources from before, which we were worried because of the president's budget. A lot of that was zeroed out, including HOPWA, Part F of Ryan White, and other parts, along with the horrible cuts that they made over the summer in the reconciliation package around Medicaid and SNAP benefits, and then also what we saw with cuts to PEPFAR, not as much of the cuts as was originally pushed out. Shout out to all the advocacy on the folks on this call and many others that have been focused to be able to get some of the PEPFAR money back for our international global work. But what we are still going to be worried about in this appropriations fight that is going on starting in September, Senate and House will be back in session next week when a lot of us will be back in going to DC for USCHA. Many of them are also going back to work to finish around the appropriations fight, which is around fiscal year 2026. So that is important. Take the time, continue to reach out to your legislators. If you haven't had a chance, what we've been pushing all this month has been Accountability August, which is holding our legislators accountable for the votes that they made earlier this year, both on the reconciliation and the rescissions fight, but also we can also talk to our local legislators about some of the fights that they've continued to make cuts, and understanding that many of them have to go into special session. Many of our states, especially states that have make sure that they have balanced budgets, like the state of Georgia, where I live, that you actually have to have a balanced budget. And if they cut money federally, then they have to go into a special session just to figure out how they can actually balance their budgets. So some of our states will be doing that, while many of our entire country will be going to appropriations fight throughout the month of September. The belief is that they will do a continued resolution at the end of this month, but if they do not, we will be in a government shutdown again at the end of this month. So that is something to look out for. Potentially, if they do not come to an understanding around the budget, then they will go to a government shutdown. And we understand that those things mean government employees aren't getting paid, but also grants aren't going out and other things. And we've already dealt with a year of slowing down of grants, of people being lied to and told that they would get the funding here, when, and then things wouldn't happen, and serious cuts to research programs. So one of the things that we're doing is making sure our voice is heard. If you are interested in being a part of our advocacy, our Hill Day, that's going to be on the 3rd. We know that the National HIV Housing Coalition will also be on the Hill that day. We encourage folks, if you are interested in being one of those that are talking to your legislators. We also have some celebrities that are joining us for our Hill Day on September 3rd. And then some of you may know, but if you are interested more, you can also reach out to me directly about an action that we will be doing on September 5th, which we will be in an ode to what has been done, especially because this is an artistic webinar here. One of the things I wanted to, is that we are taking up space and encouraging people to create panels like quilts in respect to the 1987 action that was done in for people that were died in this country and abroad, because the inability for this country to actually understand and take HIV seriously. Then what we are doing is taking up space on the National Mall on September 5th that morning, and dealing with not just HIV, but also the other the other issues and executive orders on tax on trans community, immigrants, and tax on Black people, and specifically all the attacks on Black women, how in which all this is showing up. We are taking up space on September 5th. If you are interested and want to learn more about that action and being a part of that space with us, please reach out to me directly, and we can definitely make sure that you're a part of that. But we will be taking up that space on September 5th, and we encourage people to create their panels artistically in whichever way is best for them. But I want to thank you all for being a part of this webinar, and thank you for continuing to support United We Rise, something that I have always enjoyed being a part of. Thank you for having me, Chioma. And if you have any questions later on around some of the policy pieces, we definitely can do that as well. But I can't wait to hear from these wonderful set of panelists.
Amazing as always, Max. Thank you. Please put your information in the chat so folks can reach out to you about being a part of the September 5th action that's happening. Now I'm going to hand it over to our amazing moderator, Christopher, who's also a planning committee member. I was just waiting to see if you were coming on. I was trying to delay a little bit. Yeah, who is one of our UWR planning committee members and is also a part of the Change the Narrative work group, who is leading our couch conversations. Christopher, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Kioma, and also for Max, for that information. And that is really important. And so, as Max mentioned, September 5th is going to be the date that some movement happens in Washington, D.C. And if you are going to be at USCHA, and you have the time and ability to do so, I would encourage you all to engage in that process, and show our voice as part of this part of this gathering and this opportunity in Washington, D.C. Now, today, we'll be talking a little bit about what we are calling Artivism, right? And so, what is Artivism? Artivism is the intersection of art and activism, and it is a pretty powerful strategy. If you think about it, it's something that we see all the time, and both in HIV and in a lot of other spaces. You can think of it with regard to Black Lives Matter and the way that we've seen art and the arts show up or be used in those ways to communicate messages to the community and to be a strong point of advocacy. Um, and so we've got some folks that we're going to be chatting with today about all of this, and I'll mention their names briefly, and then we'll get started with some questions. And as we go through some questions, particularly the first question, that's when folks will be able to introduce themselves a little bit further as they answer the question. So we have Reverend Marvin Anderson, who's joining us today. We have Hope Giselle, who's with us today. Margie Reese, we're waiting to see if she's able to join us. She was really looking forward to it, and hopefully she'll be able to make it on. Tandiwe Deshazer, thank you for coming on. And also Cassandra Santiago, who we have to thank for that music that was playing before we all jumped on. Thank you for that, Cassandra. So, as we're getting started, I guess my first question for you all, as you introduce yourselves, the first question is going to be, what does Artivism mean to each of you personally? Um, and so what I'll do is initially we'll go through the same order. And as you think about that, you'll be able to introduce yourselves, explain what you think about Artivism personally, and then we'll go on from there. So we'll start with you, Reverend Anderson.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marvin Anderson. I am in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I am the founder of Stigmocracy Advocacy Network Group, SAN, and we focus on destigmatizing communities against HIV. I'm happy to be here today. When I think about Artivism, what Artivism was to me, it really was a collision with purpose. I had an opportunity to receive a grant through Wake Forest University, through Gilead Compass, and the assignment was to intersect art and activism, and it was supposed to be what I thought was just going to be a project of spoken word, and I was just going to do a little something, and it turned into a whole EP, and I'm rapping and doing videos, so it just became to me an offering, of what I could bring to the work, and it gave me the ability to bring my full self. And so one track is worshiping, and another track is rapping, and another track, I'm 52 years old, and I'm a rapper. Look at me, mama, all of that stuff. So Artivism has been a gift to me to be able to bring my full self to this work, and to destigmatize communities and to fight against HIV.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Reverend Anderson. One quick follow-up question for you. Can you share a moment about when art gave you language or courage or a community that you don't feel you had before?
Absolutely. I think in this work, this work found me. I am right at a decade of living and thriving with HIV. And so when I came into this work, I really didn't know what my place or what my voice was. So I'm really just trying to stop and not fanboy today, because I'm I'm on a panel with Hope. So like, look, I made it, you know what I'm saying? And so when I look at people like Hope and I see like Kamaria, who I found in this work, and people like Daniel, who's on this in call, and Max, and all of these great people that when I came into this work in 2017, 2018, they were all here. And I admire how all of the people that I just named had such a voice and was so powerful. And I didn't know where I fit. And so I think the ability to be able to plug in. And I remember my mother to the work, Vanita Ray said to me, she says, if you learn the work, then you can bring yourself to the work. And so it has given me freedom, and it has given me the ability to speak in my own language, and to find my place. And so I'm so grateful for that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Hope, since he mentioned you and how he's fanboying, let's move on to you. Um, yeah, yeah, and he's not the only one, just so that you know. Yeah, if you would please introduce yourself a little bit, and then also speak to that question of what does artivism mean to you personally?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. So my name is Hope Giselle Godsey. I have been in the advocacy space for about 15 years now. And I started off as a person who was advocating for self on the campus of Alabama State University. When I got there, they didn't even know the word trans, for real, for real. Let alone did they understand how to navigate housing me or properly educating me or just, understanding pronouns and name changes and things of that nature. And so a lot of my advocacy started with myself because there was nobody else to do it. Once I transitioned, my mom was like, okay, girl, you good, you got it on your own. And so that person that was always in my corner kind of sort of disappeared, and I had to learn and even employ some of those tactics that I saw my mom, use as she raised a queer boy who became a trans woman. And while we may not have been able to talk on the phone, or while I wasn't able to seek her advice, I was able to study, right? I learned the work so that I could show up to the work for myself. Thank you so much for that, Marvin. I will say that Artivism has been a huge part of my life. It's in my bio. And I love when I hear people use that at the intersection of everything, because I think that what I do is a mixture of all those things. Storytelling is a huge part of the way that I use my voice, and in being able to not only tell my own stories, but to equip people with the tools to better tell their stories in ways that can be didactic, especially when we talk about HIV, when we talk about lobbying, when we talk about being on the Hill, and fighting for the things that we are either enamored with or just fed up by. Storytelling becomes this tool that allows us to either bring people in to the world and the reality that we are experiencing on a daily basis, or it allows us to create a new world so that we can escape this one for a minute. And I think that when I think about artivism, I think about dancing, I think about theater, I think about storytelling, I think about the way that all of those things help us to really cultivate, and have helped us to pass down and to share history with one another. There are so many things that are embedded, and I think that Black and Brown folks as a whole have been doing this since the dawn of time, since we knew what a drum was. We passed down stories through the beats. When we found out what rhythms were and harmonies were, when we understood that like a story could be retold over and over again, from Anansi the Spider to, what you call it, rain, wane, go away. Like those are all things that we use by way of art to create things. And so when we think about doing those exact same things to fight for freedom, it resonates so well with me. And it has always been a tool that I've used personally.
Hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that answer, Hope. I'd like to move on also to Tandue, and same question for you, sir, which is please introduce yourself briefly, and then also if you could touch on what artivism means to you personally.
Absolutely. It is an honor to be here. My name is Tandiwa DeShazer. I'm currently the program manager at CNP, the Counter Narrative Project. If you're not familiar with the Counter Narrative Project, it is a narrative change organization standing in the tradition of Bayard Rustin, James Baldwin, Essex Hemphill, and other visionary movement leaders, artists, and organizers committed to countering harmful narratives and speaking truth to power. I'm also an actor, playwright, theater producer, and director. Most recently, I've served as the dramaturg for the Atlanta premiere of A Strange Loop, which is currently playing in Atlanta until August 31st. What is a dramaturg, you may ask? Dramaturg, long story short, it basically is a person that does the research that informs the actors and the directors when they're telling a story, such as A Strange Loop, which has so many intersectionalities, and it's been an honor to be a part of that process. I don't think that Artivism has ever been without. I don't think I've ever been without Artivism in my life. Growing up as a Black queer kid, going to a predominantly white school, I could not telling my story is not an option. The first one-person show that I wrote was in San Francisco, with the San Francisco Queer Arts Festival, and it was about growing up in the Black church as a queer person. And it was something that had a sense of urgency. At the time, George W. Bush was elected. So that's giving you a sense of my age. And there was a sense of urgency that comes with artivism that I think is the differentiation between just putting something up on stage and hoping that you get an applause. There's a sense of urgency, there's a sense of a message, the storytelling and visibility, moving the needle forward through representation. I think that's what artivism means to me.
Mhm. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for that, Tandiwe. And last, we'll move on to you, Cassandra, because I'm going to ask you this very same question, which is, first of all, if you would please introduce yourself, and also if you could share, a point about what artivism means to you personally. Um, that would be great.
Sure. So I'm Cassandra Santiago, she, they. I am the president for Somos South Central Florida, and I also produce and host a podcast by Las Semillas, which is Las Voces del Coro. It is an oral narrative storytelling project that focuses on Pine Hills and West Orlando, uplifting, recording, archiving, and pretty much distributing the stories of us West Orlando folks. As well, I am an artist. I never really considered myself one per se, I guess because I didn't really know what that meant. But for me, it really means it's not one size fits all. It's creating spaces that affirm us and remind us that we deserve to be seen and cared for. Recently, I spent a couple of months revitalizing a religious sanctuary at Hope Community Center. I created a mural and also redid some of the little aspects of the sanctuary in order to create a beautiful third space with a mural, a 4-foot Virgen de Guadalupe as well. And the mural really represents like the sunrise and the sunset, especially during these times where immigration has been really a really prevalent issue, especially in Central Florida. What comes up must come down, and the idea of having hope always throughout.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Cassandra. And thank you all for answering that first question and introducing much of what we're going to be talking about today. There were a couple of references to this sense of urgency, right? This amazing sense of the moment that we're all living in. We see a lot of things happening around us, a lot of change, both politically and, to be honest, economically. Um, and uh, and so my next question, and feel free to take turns. Just let me know who would like to go first. Um, it's about how the arts can be used to raise awareness, especially now. And when we talk about raising awareness, we're talking about both funding cuts, for example, canceled programs. Oftentimes, that's tied to funding cuts. Um, and rising attacks on equity work. And and can we just tell the truth, which is some of these attacks against equity really are different sort of versions of attacks against racist approaches to try to reduce and devalue our lives and who we are and what we're about. And so if you would, who would like to speak into that first, please? And it's okay to be shy.
I think I'll start. I think that it's really important, I believe, for us to start thinking outside of the box or continue to do that, what we've always done. I remember a few years ago, I was a part of an organization called the Home Theater Festival. And we were frustrated artists who did not feel like we wanted to wait on a theater or an institution or a grant program. And we said, we're going to do theater in the home. We are going to create a safe space. We are going to be very innovative with the space of theater. And we didn't have to wait on anyone. So I think that the more that we think about thinking outside of the box, those ideas like that, I think that's one way that we can push back against the cancel programs and the funding cuts, leaning into community a bit more. That's just one of many ways that we can do it.
I would like to add, I think that we need to make the language accessible. One of the things that I tend to do is I do all the digging through the high level academic or sometimes like medical jargon in order to make the language very accessible to my audience. People care, right? I think that the misconception among some of us when we get tired, when we get sick and, like when we feel like the work is coming overbearing is we say like, people don't even care about this. Why am I doing it? And it's not that folks don't care. It's that folks don't have the education that I think that we have around the issues. And so one of the ways that I think artivism and art in general can help with a lot of what's happening is if you bring it down to the level of the people that you're trying to convey that energy to. You can't give the same message to the mature crowd as you give to your, millennials and your Generation Zs and things of that nature. They're going to tune out. Kids need everything to be made sexy. Adults need things to be made practical. Elders need things to be made reminiscent of what they wish that they could have had and what they've been fighting for. And so I always like to remind people to give hope to the folks that need it, to give inspiration to the folks that desire it, and to always bring accessibility to the folks who don't have it. And those are things that I think art does a really good job at being able to do for folks.
Awesome. Thank you. So then there was this reference Hope and Marvin both made about creating a safe space. What does that need to look like as we're talking about a safe space both for art, activism, artivism, and just for people to feel like they can own their voices and speak whatever their truths are through the variety of different types of arts, including theater and posters and poetry and and all sorts of varieties of art. And as you see in the chat, please feel free to pose any questions that you may have for our guest speakers in the chat, and we will definitely make it a point to bring that up to our speakers.
So for me, just having the ability to the art being safe for me personally, but also creating a safe space, as Hope alluded to, when you go into spaces of other people that may not know the language, they may not know about, or what they do know about HIV is stigmatizing, or what they do know about policy is comfortable for them. And so to go in with a message to change hearts, to change minds, to change policy, sometimes you need a segue. And so it's safe for me to present it in a way that is disarming, that can be disarming to get me in the door to have the opportunity to say, oh, Marvin, you got a CD, or, you have this video that I saw. And that's amazing, and that's exciting. But then once I get to the table, let's talk about this policy in Louisiana that, the organization LCCH is fighting here, that has policy that are antiquated, that is still harmful, and that is still brutal, to those that are living with HIV and those that are fighting HIV. And so it creates a safe space on both sides where you can show up as your full self and kind of disarm the enemy or the adversaries on the other side, and to kind of create a space where we can have a conversation and communicate to move the pendulum on what's happening.
Great, thank you. Tandiwe?
I absolutely agree with both Marvin and Hope. I think that on one end, yes, the hierarchy and the elitism has to be taken out of the access to art. Taking the time to explain things to people in the younger generation without judgment is very, very important. I also think that we create safe spaces by not traumatizing your audience or the actors or the crew. Far too often, whether intentional or unintentional, people create art around HIV that traumatizes, that we can't tell stories where people are actually living and thriving with HIV. We all sometimes want to only show the suffering, and we have to be able to say, hey, if we are going to tell a story that a person does die, how are we doing aftercare? How are we making sure that we're showing the full picture of what a person living with HIV is going? We can do things historically, but it's so important to show that people can thrive and live with HIV, and do it within art without traumatizing our people.
I don't want it to be lost on us that no space is safe, right? I think that we've gotten into that jargon because it's like become buzzwords, and like some of us like lean on it. It's like, oh, safe space, but like no space is safe, especially when you're talking about art, because art is not going to land the same way with everybody, right? Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to think that it's vain. Some folks are going to say that it costs too much to create, which is the antithesis of what you're doing the art for. Like, there's always going to be somebody that has a thing to say. And so I think the goal should be not creating pernicious relationships with the people who are receiving the art, right? And reminding the artists, like, hey, I need you to understand that this might be a hit for you and your people. And as long as it's a hit with y'all, great. Because there are going to be some people that are going to say, this is performative. This doesn't work for me. I don't need another song, Marvin. I need action. I don't need another video, Hope. I need action. I don't need another protest or a march, Cassandra. I want something that's a different type of action, right? You see what I just did there? Like, because people are going to always move the goalposts, because some folks are not searching for safe space. They're searching for something or someone or some organization to blame for the situation at hand that they feel like they have access and proximity to. And so when we think about what it means to to have safe space, I think that that's us reminding the artist that your art is valid, even if not everybody understands it. And that's where your safety comes in, right? For me and in mine.
I love how you put that your art is valid, even if not everybody seems to understand it. Because as time progresses, we have different forms of expression that may develop. And we might see some differences in the way that, say, a younger person communicates whatever their perspectives are in the art that they do, versus, I hate that I'm calling someone in their 40s an older person, but but we all know what we mean, right? Like that it can be different. And just because it's different doesn't mean that it's less valued or less valuable. Um, so there's that's important. When we think about art as, and artivism, if we talk a little bit about justice, right? Both racial justice, HIV justice, etc. Where do you see and how do you see those interactions or that intersectionality kind of showing up in that space? And what else do you think that might need to look like? Or what's kind of missing that we could sort of add to that uh you see my hands, to that space where we're talking about intersectionality, so HIV justice, racial justice, etc.
Okay.
I know
I don't.
it's a lot. Just think about it this
It,
way. If you can just speak to HIV justice, racial justice, and the intersectionality with artivism based on your kind of experiences.
it wasn't even that. It's the trying to say the thing without being offensive and also holding on to the fact that like sometimes stuff is gonna rub people the wrong way, but I mean it with love. And it's one of those things where I think that when we are talking about racial justice and all the other justices, we leave out specific groups of people based off of who needs justice in that moment. Right. And so when we think about intersectionality of racial justice, health justice, equity justice, and social justice, like all of those things, we often base racial justice on Black and brown folks with a social lens on Black folk. And that lens gets even smaller because we start to prioritize Black men. And once we prioritize Black men, we have to disavow Black queer people because Black men at large have to disassociate from queerness in order for their Black male fragility in most cases to be valid, right? And so what ends up happening is that we spend more time talking about who can't get into this argument than we do actually pleading our case for intersectionality, because the Black men who need the help say, I want the help, but I don't want it from that faggot over there. Excuse my language, right? I want the help, but that woman can't lead me because I'm an alpha male. I desire the help, but the way that she said that made me feel like she was talking down to men. So we have to postpone this until y'all can find a woman who knows her place in the system, right? And this is not a bash on Black men, but what this is saying is that for us to get to the conversation around intersectionality, we have to have a community conversation about leadership. And when we are able to have a conversation about leadership that does not center Black men just because, right, in the way that white supremacy centers white men just because they were born with penises, then I think we'll be able to have a conversation about how to truly gain equity. Because it's not even just about intersectionality, it's about equity within that. Black people know that we come in all shades, sizes, and colors because we use it on white supremacists when they get on our nerves. But when white people are not a part of that conversation, we turn those same swords on each other. Right, which causes the downfall of the conversation. Then when we add in the intersectionality of people who are both Black and Latin or Black and Hispanic, depending on how you want to be named, right? That's when we start to have a whole other host of questions, right? There are so many different things that we have to discuss before we get to the intersectionality piece in order for it to be successful, that I think that at the barest of minimums, the happiest of mediums is affirming Black women who show up in masculine roles so that way everybody feels somewhat represented, and there's a higher chance of people who sit on margins that Black men would ignore will actually have a chance to be able to sit at the table, because a Black woman who understands the struggle of being marginalized due to that position would be able to understand and bring folks into the fold. But I think that there's several conversations to have before we get there. But if we have to speed track it, it has to come from a Black woman who is in a space that men dominate and is respected in that space, because she's more likely to see and empathize with other people outside of who she is.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Cassandra, there's a lot of points that Hope really kind of touched on. that I would love to hear what your perspective might be, particularly about intersectionality and with how she referenced both race and ethnicity and some other points, including gender, etc.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as far as I see locally, the intersections really lie in the open mic nights. You know, I see so many queer, Black and brown youth show up to open mic nights to tell their stories, their lived experiences. And, you know, as much as Hope has a amazing point and it's so true, I feel like when you get into those open mic nights and you get into those showcases, those like where community is coming and just speaking, you know, that that looming idea isn't so much there, or it's not as prevalent because everybody's just trying to, get their point across, their lived experience, their art, and it's really in that moment and hearing what people have to say. But she's absolutely right. There becomes a bigger discussion when it becomes trying to create policy and trying to create workshops and trying to really get like work done that becomes a really big issue. But I think when you go to those open mic nights and you hear, people's lived experiences, you get to forget that for a little moment and you get to really just know that somebody's going through what I'm going through. Somebody's doing this, somebody's doing that, we're doing this, I'm showing off my photos of this. And in those brief hour, 2 hours, I feel like real community. I feel like we really have something in common and those barriers are really gone. So
Wow, awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Just very quickly, I'd like to remind folk that if you have any questions for these, for our esteemed panelists, that please just go ahead and drop something into the chat, and we'll make sure that they get an opportunity to speak to it. In fact, here is a question that came out of the chat, which is, how are you all working to avoid your own erasure in the future of artivism? That is to say, keeping your imprint or thinking about your impact, not only so that it carries you into the future, but also the things that we're fighting for as a community, right? Those solutions, that liberation, the LGBTQ, IA plus folk, or just for Black and brown folks, just in general.
I'll bridge what I was going to say about intersectionality to answer that question as well. Speaking after Hope and Cassandra, I think one of the things is, when we talk about intersectionality is not just a conversation piece. It's not just when we come on panels like this or when we get on the stage or when we get the mic, that's when we talk about it. I think it's a thought process. And we talk about Black women, but a powerful young lady by the name of Marnina Miller imparted that into me, like, yo, like this ain't just a moment over here where we're talking about this in this moment or we're talking about that in that moment, but it's a mindset. Like intersectionality should be on the forefront of our minds as we progress in this work. Like, okay, Hope is over there talking about trans issues, and then somebody else is over there talking about this, and Thandi is talking about that, and Marvin is over there talking about stigma. But then when I build relationships with trans women who have become my sisters, who I will fight for, and I understand, what Kamarian D. Anderson means to me, like that's my sister, and so then when I get people like Marnina Miller, who is leading women, or if I get people like Mario, whose phone, when I first came to work, that I could call anytime, be like, hey sis, what direction do I need to go? So I think it's not just a conversation piece. It's not just an in the moment thing, but it's a mindset that we should carry. And if we carry that mindset, then it's nothing lost and no one left behind. So I think we approach it that way.
Absolutely.
I think that's what's missing.
I absolutely agree. I think that when we talk about that mindset, I'm also really encouraged about, I don't write, I don't direct for the white gaze. I don't gaze Gaze or GAY, right? I think I look at the work of people like Dahlia R. Love, had the opportunity to direct 1 and 2, all of the intersections around HIV justice and intersectionality in that we write for ourselves. We tell our story. And then, you know what? If it works for you, if you can get some of your stuff out of there, then I think that's wonderful. But you're telling your story. I am walking intersections. Here I am. Here we all are. And that's how we listen to each other. And I think that's part of that mindset as well. Not writing for them, writing for you and your community, right? That's me.
Okay, wonderful. So, and we've talked a little bit about, your own individual sort of experiences and using your art and the form of expression that you each, have expertise in to art as activism, to use it to speak to certain things, to communicate some principles to the community, maybe even to educate and then to spur some sort of response, right? Like not just to look at it and say, oh, that's so pretty, but oftentimes to look at what the underlying message may be. And that's whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's a women's equality movement, whether it's standing up for trans sisters and brothers, particularly during a time when this particular administration is really starting to come for us by coming for our brothers and sisters first, right? And how we stand together in unity, right? That's an important piece. So that being the case, what would you share to somebody who approached you to say, you know what, I'd like to do what you're doing, or some version of how I can do my version of what you're doing? How would you speak to them? How would you encourage them to find their voice and honor that?
Do your research, baby. You can't, and you're not going to be able to survive in this field or any field for that matter off of your emotions alone. You might get a viral video here and there. A couple of people might clap and snap for you in the space, but emotion does not move people, right? A person who speaks with authority because they know what they are talking about moves people. And that's a thing that I don't think enough people glorify enough, is that for just as many times as you see a person turn on their camera or step in front of a podium, you have to know that there are sleepless nights holding on to the book because the chapter is so good, and thumb notes and sticky notes hanging out of pages and bookmarked, things in your read list. Like, for every single person, and I think I speak for everybody on panel and even some people in the audience, that is doing the work overtime, presenting bills, going to the Hill, making content, creating music, songs, writing plays. There is research that came before any camera turned on or any booking was booked. And if you want to get where we are, you have to know what we know and then some, right? Being an expert is not just about being the person that everybody calls on, because you could be that person and still not be the most qualified person in the room, right? But being where we are requires a level of sacrifice and understanding that sometimes you're going to have to say no to the after hour conference kickback with the drinks and the wine, because you have to study up for that thing that you're kind of unfamiliar with for your talk back in the morning, right?
Mhm.
It means having to forego the mindless scrolling on your flight from Miami to LA because you got to finish these couple of chapters. Like, it just means that much more to read what this doctor is saying about this new development and how they've been able to convey these things to an audience very much so similar to the one that you're about to present in front of. Research is just as important as emotion. And when combined, and when you build the right cocktail and you learn how to read the room, being up here, being like us, is the easy and the fun part. But you got to do the work first.
Oh yeah, all of that. of doing the work. In addition, though, I think it's learning to trust your offering to pour, like trust what you bring, trust that you are enough, trust that you have something to bring to the table. And I think, a lot of times, coming into the work or moving in movement work or what you've been purposed and called to, I think for me getting to this space, personal experience was I had to trust myself to color outside of the lines, to do what I hadn't seen anybody else do, to do what, after I studied, after I spent time with individuals and after I spent time learning, now let me trust what I have to bring. Let me trust what the offering, I always call it an offering, what I have to pour, because it comes with sacrifice. It comes with being misunderstood. It comes with, not having a yes man or a man corner. It's not going to come like that all the time. And so trust what you bring, trust in what's on the inside of you that is valid, that is needed, and that is relevant. And once you make sure that that aligns with the work that needs to be done and the work what's being called for and the urgency of that moment, I think then you move forward into that. But trust it. Trust yourself. Trust your gut. Trust what's in you.
Awesome.
I think for me personally, it's really just kind of having the audacity to just show up and show out. There's been a lot of times where I didn't believe in myself, but because other people believed in me, it really helped me kind of get to where I needed to go and what I needed to do. And sometimes having that community support is truly what can take you tenfold. And if you don't have that community support right now, then just at minimum have the audacity to garner it. For sure.
Audacity. I like it.
That part.
The audacity of Cassandra. That's going to be what we're calling
A workshop.
right, right. The next workshop. Tandaway, did you have anything else you'd like to add before we?
I absolutely, I agree with all of that. One of the things I did want to lift up is I appreciated what Cassandra said earlier about the open mics. I know that open mics as an artist, that got me out in the community. That helped me form a community of people that I could trust. I learned about the craft through open mics and getting yourself out there. And this is just not necessarily just the technical things, but also the business things. If we're talking about using the arts to express your truth, you're going to be placed in many rooms, in many situations. Sometimes that person on your side can tap you and they can be a mentor to you. I absolutely agree with Hope. Getting out there and doing your research is absolutely important. I'm just, say no more. I'm all about it. I love all of the points that everyone made.
Okay, wonderful. Here's another question that came in through the chat from someone who's in the webinar who's been listening to you all. And so the question reads, what are the values that you hold and during the work so you can be authentic to yourself and the way that you use your artistry for for artivism? So let me read that again. What are the values that you hold and during the work so you can be authentic to yourself in the way you use your artistry for artivism? And let me have the caveat that notes that there have been a lot of attempts to censor art as a way of communication, right? Like we've seen the disappearing of even Black Lives Matter messaging in public spaces such as streets, some of the beautiful artwork that was done on the streets, as an example. Um, just as one example, but we're seeing a lot of those sorts of things. So when we're talking about that, how do each of you, what are the values that each of you hold in doing this work?
I would say that for me, because I work in theater primarily, it's about collaboration. It is about collaboration and it is about listening. If I am asked to direct a show about someone who I may not be in direct community with, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say, hey, what research do I need to do? Who do I need to collaborate with to make sure that this piece is authentic? Sometimes that also looks like me stepping back and saying, you know what, I'm not the right person for this job. You need to hire that woman, you need to hire that trans woman, because I may be your person at the top of that list, but it's more important that the story is told authentically. And it ain't all about me all the time. It's about how do we tell the story in the right way with the most authenticity. So I believe that if you collaborate with folks in a truly authentic nature, the work is going to flourish and you're going to get your rewards in the long run. It don't always have to be about me at the front all the time. That's one of the things that I choose to do to stay authentic.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like I love that you said it that way because one of my biggest things, and I say it all the time because it's the thing that I want y'all to say about me when I die. And it's it's that everybody is fighting to be exclusive, but like clothes, everything that is exclusive goes on sale at some point. And you have to be mindful, I think, as a value to carry in whatever you're doing, that you're not so focused on the merit that you forget, right? That you didn't get the merit by yourself. Somebody dressed you. Somebody gave you the idea for that post. You and your friend that had that breakdown that one day that inspired that chapter for that book that you're now getting Pulitzer prizes on. Yeah, that was a thing too, right? Like, don't forget that you did not become this exclusive piece that everybody is after because you were by yourself. And I think that for me, it's also going to be understanding that not compromising on who you are and your message does not mean that you are unmovable and above reproach. Those two things, contrary to popular belief, can live in the same container at the same time. You can be a person that is unwavering, unfaltering, unmoving on your ability to convey a message, to speak to your people, to get things done, and also be a person that is willing to be corrected, because it's not to say that your way is wrong, but it wasn't right for this person. It wasn't right for that group. It didn't hit the same way that it hit when you said it in Mississippi that one time. And being able to admit those things are signs of a good leader. And I think for me, that's a great value system. Being a person that's able to be both strong in their opinion and their approach, but also open in their ability to receive critique and feedback as it pertains to the people that they're trying to lead. You can't be a good leader if you're yelling at the flock to go left in a certain way when that flock just wants you to tell them to go left versus screaming at it from the back of the field. Like you can't do that to everybody. So being able to tailor your approach is really important.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh God, that's so good. And I think in addition to that is, and I think Hope said earlier about, doing it if no one claps for you, doing it if no one applauds for you.
Yeah.
And I think in my preacher moment, I think we must keep in mind that the story is to be told and not sold. That this story is to be told and not sold, meaning that I'm in this moment and in this world of opportunities and grants and platforms. And if you do this, you can get that. And so there's a lot of exchange that happens when it comes down to our art. There's a lot of exchange that can happen when it comes down to telling our stories. And so just making sure that I am not convinced to move a little bit to the left. Well, can you say it a little bit like this, Hope? Or can you say it a little bit like this, Marvin? No, I'm coming like this because this is the authentic way, and authenticity always wins, right? And so I think just understanding that my story is going to be told through my art, and my story is to be told and not sold, and keeping that mentality that I'm going to come as I am in the moment to give what I have. And so I think keeping that focal point I think will be helpful.
I think for me personally, it can be permission to be an amateur.
Ooh.
Permission to kind of do it scared and do it for the first time and shake while you do it and be really nervous and, you know, look at people and realize that they've done it too once before, or if that was their first time, or they've done it scared. And that's a really good value system for me, that, to play, permission to play, permission to be an amateur.
Mhm. Whew, y'all just said nothing. I mean, y'all didn't say nothing but the word.
I was gonna say, because Cassandra just dropped it on me. I'm using that one.
Right,
Permission to be an
right.
amateur. I live.
Right. Thank you for that one. I think we're all going to hold on to that one because we've all been that person, right? That's the thing, is that every single one of us have been that person. It's really easy to, you go to a meeting, like for example, USCHA coming up next week, and you hear someone standing on a stage and they're speaking, and all you might be able to think is like, they're so polished and they're so well done. Like they're so, oh my gosh, he or she is so much of everything, without recognizing that their trajectory is just like mine. I started in a very easy and simple, dare I say, in an amateur space, right? And and then we watch each other grow and develop, and we help each other grow and develop, which is another sort of critical piece that aligns with some of what y'all have shared with the values. So we've got about 17 minutes left. Here's another question that came out of the chat that someone has highlighted for you all, and it's kind of speaking to sort of like age cohortism and and emerging or developing leadership. So how are emerging leaders under the age of 35 building connections with and learning from more seasoned leaders so that they can amplify their impact? That's part one. And then part two is, and in what ways are they reimagining messaging strategies due to this new current administration? All right, so we can start with the first part, which is really about emerging leaders, right? And those who are under the age of 35, in what way are they building connections with and learning from seasoned leaders to amplify their impact?
We're not. I mean, let's be honest, we're not. There are not a lot of spaces that are made for us to link up with those seasoned leaders. So we often feel like they're untouchable and inaccessible, and we gawk at them in the conference as they walk by and hope for a handshake or a selfie. And, we watch the videos and we study and try to be like them. But there's no real space to have those conversations anymore, because I think that it's not fun and it's not an influencer gimmick. It doesn't show up in the form of a photo booth or, a picture that I can post that people are going to give 1,000 likes for because they also wanted to meet this elder, right? There isn't an appease and sitting with our folks the way that there used to be. Like, people were lining up around the corner to have a conversation with Nikki Giovanni. Not a photo, but a conversation, right? Like, folks were really like listening on audio tapes to Maya Angelou just speak about anything. And I mean, that lady could have been talking about how to bake chicken, and we were all in it because there was going to be wisdom in between the cleaning process and the stove, and we knew that. And I just think that as a person who is under 35 and still taking and spending time with the greats, whenever I'm in the presence of Miss Major, I'm there for, at the barest of minimum, 15 minutes. whatever she gonna say in that 15 minutes, I need to hear it. I need to ingest it. I need to see it. I need to feel it. I miss Marsha, right? I can't get those moments back, but Miss Major is here. There are so many other like Black women and Black TGNC folks that like I go out of my way to spend time with. But if I'm honest, it's not a thing that I think most of us are intentionally doing on purpose. I will say to the second part of the question, though, the kids are, however, revamping the way that we do messaging and coming up with creative ways to say the thing. I think that social media is a beautiful tool that they're learning to use in ways that I don't think that we thought about. For instance, the videos with no sound, but like writing on the cards so that your video has a better chance with the algorithm. So using a popular song, but talking about the AIDS bill that you're trying to get passed. Like the kids are really smooth with that one. The idea of turning protests into block parties so that the police don't necessarily show up for the protest, they show up for the block party, and then midway through there's an entire activation and government officials come out and it becomes this thing. More kids are involved because they thought it was just going to be a party, but now they learning about who in the district is running for what. The same thing that we used to do back in the days with the churches, but now these kids have taken it to this whole new millennial level, and it's really, really wonderful to see.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Hope. What about you, Marvin? I can see you thinking, so that's why I called your name.
What I was thinking is I came to this work rather late. So a lot of the elders that I would glean from aren't elders in age, but they're elders in the work. So I came to the work I'm 52. So when I came to the work, all of the people that I named earlier, and then other people in the work that I gleaned from, may be younger than me, but I think just having the respectability and the humility, I think whatever age you are, knowing that there are people who are here, there are people who are present, who have been out here in these streets doing a thing, and I can receive and learn and grow. I've learned and received some things just by listening here on this panel today. So I think just coming to the work with humility and respectability, having the respect to understand that I can receive and I can learn, and by there I can grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a sexy answer, but I have gotten some of the best mentorship by offering to do stuff for free. Like, be like, if you need social media help, if you need an assistant for a mural, if you need a laggy that will hold the camera equipment. I've learned photography, journalism to write. I learned how to do the
No.
to be next to my mentors or people that I was like, you're so smart. I want to grow up and be like you. Like, how can I do that?
Right.
Do I?
I really I'm loving these answers, and it really has me thinking about emerging leaders. And I had to really think about, like, I agree 100% with you, Hope, that we're not. And so it makes me think about, I'm over 35. But it makes me think about what I can do in the future, the next time I'm at that conference, the next time I'm in those spaces. It's being approachable, right?
Come on.
It's also approachable.
Amen.
Come
It's
on.
saying, hey there, what's going on? You're new here? Let's talk. Hey, because we can both get value from each other by just not, taking the elitism out of it, right? Taking those barriers out of it. I think that you've given me a charge to move forward and say, hey, let's do that. Let's actually build that bridge, have the conversation. So thank you, Hope. You ate.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we've got about 10 minutes left. And so just very quickly, this will be the last question that we touch on. So I'll be asking for brief responses so everyone can get the time to get something in. But when we think 10 years ahead, right, just from where we are today, what is the legacy that you hope that Black Artivism will leave for the next generation of organizers and creatives?
I hope that a spirit of continued liberation,
Okay.
giving the next generation and those that are to come, that a space is created for individuals to be free to express that we have done it before them and others have done it before them, that creates this sense of liberation and applause that, yes, come authentically, come fully as who you are, to do this work. I think that's what I would want, a spirit of liberation and freedom and liberty to be left.
Chris, could you repeat the question again?
Sure. It's thinking 10 years ahead. What is the legacy that you hope that Black Artivism, so where we are today and what we're doing today, will leave for the next generation of organizers and creatives?
A blueprint. I want it to be a blueprint for ways to continue the work. I think that it's naturally shaping up that way in this particular instance. I think that our leaders are preparing us by way, of doing the work now. And then it's up to us to kind of sort of say like, okay, here's what we got. And here's where I think that we're going to be in 8 years when I retire. And so, those last two, I want you to come in and start to build your new framework. So I think that that's what I hope most, is that there's a blueprint left behind for them to kind of sort of look at the house that we're trying to landscape and fill in the gaps where, oh, this flooring ain't gonna work over here. Oh, this beam ain't gonna support that stuff that y'all was trying to build over there. And like really make good on what we started.
Great. Underway?
I think what keeps coming up in my head is the phrase elders that we can trust. I think that I look at the people whose shoulders I stand on, people like Brian Freeman, Homo Afro Homos, and they were people that I could trust. Now, I believe in respecting my elders. I was raised right, but I also feel like not everybody can fit into that category. I'll just leave it there. I want to be the type of person that a young person can trust, that a young person can come, that someone coming under me can say, hey, you were a blueprint. And I felt like I could trust you. I think that we leave work behind that is valuable, that people can mine things from, and be the type of elder that folks can learn from and also is also willing to learn. Trust has come up so many times in this conversation. And I think that we I want to leave a legacy that that folks can trust. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Cassandra, briefly.
Yeah, I hope that we kind of learn to understand archival record keeping, because if it's for us, by us, we need to know how to preserve it. We need to know how to keep it safe, and we need to know where it's going to be housed, and we need folks to kind of step into those roles to make sure that everything that we do, lasts a long time and that it's documented.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to thank you all, our panelists, Reverend Marvin Anderson, Ms. Hope Giselle, Ms. Cassandra Santiago, and Mr. Thandue Shazor. And I hope I used all the proper genders. But It was really amazing and powerful to have you all here with us today. With United We Rise. Now, I would like to just remind everybody very quickly before we wrap up that that United We Rise is available both on Instagram and on Facebook. So you can follow us in either of those two places if you'd like. Um, uh, and and these couch conversations, we're doing one each month. That's part of our commitment. And so our next conversation is going to be on Tuesday, September 23rd. And they're hosted every month from 3 to 4:30 Eastern time. So if you are Central, Mountain, Pacific, etc., please make the adjustment to your on your calendar. And other than that, if you have items that you'd like to discuss, or if there's any particular point that you'd like to either get to any of the panelists, uh, please feel free to email United We Rise. Any communication from the panelists, we will let them know. And any particular questions just about United We Rise or what we're doing or how we're doing, please let us know. And and with that, I think we can close and say thank you. Again, thank you to all of our guests, and we can send them hearts and hand claps as they did an amazing job. Wonderful. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you in 4 weeks on Tuesday, September 23rd.